Joining us now, MS Now political analyst and co-founder of Punchbowl News, Jake Sherman, host of the Fast Politics podcast, and MS Now political analyst, Molly Jong-Fast, staff writer at The Atlantic covering national security and the Department of Justice, Sarah Fitzpatrick, good to have you, and former White House press secretary under President Joe Biden, former Department of State spokesperson under the Obama administration, and of course, the host of MS Now's The Briefing, Jen Psaki. Okay, Jake, I will begin with you because this is your lane most of all. Tell me about the ways in which you're seeing Congress break off, potentially defy Donald Trump, and where it could be headed.
I'll tell you this, and we could start here because it's probably the most newsworthy, but the number of Republicans, Katie, who are saying that this Iran MOU is such trash is stunning to me. I mean, I thought they would perhaps hold their fire until there's a final agreement. But we had Roger Wicker of Mississippi, the Senate Armed Services chairman, come out today and say that this deal would effectively erase any gains that Donald Trump won in his previous campaign against Iran. We have, just to take your pick, a bunch of different people across the Republican ideological spectrum, Ted Cruz, et cetera, saying that this deal is not worth the paper it's written on. And yesterday, President Trump said plainly, if other people have ballistic missiles, Iran should be able to have it. And he has no problem with Iran having a civilian nuclear program, something that, again, Republicans have been against for a very long time. But that's not it, Katie. I mean, you have a bunch of Republicans who are saying Bill Pulte, Trump's soon-to-be, as of tomorrow, acting director of national intelligence, is not suited for the job. The president has, and then on small things, the president has pushed Congress to authorize FISA, the warrantless wiretapping law, for a short period of time. Congress has not done that. So we're just seeing, and I'll name one other thing, the anti-weaponization fund, which Republicans just rebelled against, although stopped short of putting that into law. But they rebelled against it, and they were very clear that they thought it was a waste of time and money. And the ballroom, I think a lot of people are uneasy with. You'd find almost an easier time finding things that they're against the president on than they're for. They're resisting his calls to blow up the filibuster, to change the blue slip rules that allow judges and attorney generals, or allow home state senators to block judges and U.S. attorneys in states. So, Katie, it's quite remarkable, but it's not remarkable when you think of it this way. This is a president at 39%, and the midterms 140-something days away. Republicans are in a position to lose. They know that, and they don't want to be saddled with a president with, below 40% approval rating.
37%, according to the most recent Times poll. 33%, I believe, on the economy, according to, I think, a poll come out today. So, yeah, terrible numbers. Jen, you had just left the State Department when the JCPOA was finalized. You were working at the White House at that time. It is remarkable to think about what happened then, the work that was put in to get that over the finish line, the way in which Republicans, some Democrats, but Republicans and Donald Trump trashed it. Donald Trump came into office, ripped it up, then went to war with Iran, bombed it, and is now back to potentially renegotiating very similar terms to the JCPOA.
Well, we don't even know that it's very similar terms, Katie. I mean,
we don't.
Right now, we know very little. There's been a 2-page memorandum of understanding that's very minimal. And I just want to remind people watching right now, the JCPOA was negotiated over a series of several years. There were dozens, if not hundreds, of experts within the federal government working to negotiate that. Before the JCPOA, there was a temporary agreement among the P5+1. So that includes Russia, that includes China, that includes the EU. And right now, what we know is two pages of a memorandum that hasn't addressed the core issues. We should all hope, of course, that this brings a permanent end to the war, and this brings about an agreement. But yes, we don't even know that. So right now we're back behind where we started, and back behind the point when Donald Trump ripped up the plan 10 years ago.
Jen, you're in Chicago right now. You're there for the opening of the center. Just speak to the whiplash, the zig and the zag that the president was talking about post Donald Trump's win, and I guess what it means to be at the center today. with President Obama and Michelle Obama trying to look forward, remind Americans that it's worth getting involved. And especially at the same time, Donald Trump overseas signing an agreement to look for an agreement with Iran that maybe is as good as the JCPOA, maybe. What is that like? It must be a very weird experience.
Well, it's basically the agreement is nothing at this point. So we don't know that it's going to be anywhere near the JCPOA. But in terms of being here, look, this has been an incredibly joyful, incredibly love-filled. It's been a party, basically. I know that people who have been watching the coverage of it and been watching people's speeches. And implicit, though, in what former President Obama said, there was definitely implicit critiques of Donald Trump, attacks on Donald Trump, as much as it wasn't overt. But it was also a reminder to people, to your point, about not being nostalgic for the past, not living and sitting in the past, really looking to the future and the power that people have to make change happen. So there is quite a whiplash, because I think so many people who are here were a part of his election, Barack Obama's election, and now they've been sitting in this world that feels so different and unfamiliar and unrecognizable from that world we all lived in politics that long ago. But what he was telling people is to look forward. And I will tell you, maybe you already mentioned this, there were so many people who may run for president who were here sitting in this audience today too, and that's also quite telling. But that's, I think, for people watching, what they should be thinking about.
Yeah, you had Kamala Harris, you had Gavin Newsom, you had J.B. Pritzker, a number of others as well. Sarah Fitzpatrick, President Obama talked a lot about we. The center focuses on we. Donald Trump talks a lot about I. I alone can fix it. He surrounded himself with people who support that version of presidential rule. It's all up to him. Defer to him. Say yes to him. Make him feel good about anything that he might want. You've done a lot of reporting regarding how that's panning out and the frustration that it is inspiring. Explain.
Look, I think that traditionally this president and this White House has viewed the way that they do business as a one-way street, that orders come from the White House and the rest of government, it's their job to figure it out. But I think we are seeing in this moment around the Iran war, around a couple of these the weaponization fund, et cetera, we're finally seeing the disconnect between what Republicans have been saying in Congress behind the scenes and what they are willing to say in public. And we're now seeing that delta shorten, because Republicans are so frustrated that they are left essentially having to account for these policies that they weren't involved in, that they did not authorize, and that they, quite frankly, believe to be really problematic from a military perspective as well as from a political perspective in selling this to voters a couple months away. So I do think that we are finally seeing for the American public what has only been happening behind closed doors, which is a lot of anger and frustration. And I think, too, we're also seeing what happens when you have we talk so much about, I cover national security in the Justice Department. These institutions are built on expertise, that you have people who are thinking about downside risk, who are thinking about scenarios, who are thinking about bringing in all of the information that is changing on a minute-to-minute basis and bringing that into your planning. But when that infrastructure is purged, essentially, and when views of dissent, even not outright, but just questioning or thinking of a new idea, are viewed as not being in alignment with the president and not being loyal to the president, you see these things move forward at such a rapid pace without the rest of the party or the rest of the Congress behind them. And so I think we're seeing a lot of situations that are of their own making that are putting this White House in a very, very difficult position, because ultimately they do have Congress to answer to.
Yeah, and why this is happening now? I mean, I think Republicans, advisors, everybody around Donald Trump or the party would be able to, as they have done, swallow a lot more if Donald Trump's approval ratings, his popularity was as high as it has historically been. Yes, he's still very powerful, Molly, in the primaries. We've seen that. But when you look at the overall numbers, they are not good. I mean, we talked about it at the top. 37% overall approval, according to the Times. 33, it's around there, on the economy. That enables a lot of this dissent that might otherwise be, shoved under the rug.
Yeah, I think it's also the sheer self-inflicted nature of this. Remember, when Donald Trump went into Iran, he could never articulate why. And in fact, there are a number of reasons. We've heard every reason from Marco Rubio saying that Netanyahu had told him to Trump saying it was nukes, it was missiles, it was this, it was that. And so that was just this was just an injury that he inflicted on his own administration, and gas prices went up, as everyone said they would. And even it reminds me of like all of the beautification projects in D.C. Remember, Trump made this whole thing about this reflecting pool. $14 million later, it has the largest algae bloom going. These are just Trump could have just been president and not done all this foreign adventuring, and gas prices wouldn't have gone up and polling wouldn't have gone down. Trump has done a lot of things that Democrats don't like that are, problematic in any number of reasons, but he managed to do things that also just alienated Republican voters, like the gas prices. And, this is a president who ran on two things: ending foreign wars and bringing down the price of things.